The topic of why strong women often have few friends is a multifaceted issue that touches on various aspects of personality, societal expectations, and the nature of relationships themselves. It is important to consider the social dynamics that surround individuals, particularly women, who exhibit strength in ways that deviate from the conventional or socially accepted norms. Strong women, those who are self-sufficient, assertive, and confident, often find themselves at odds with the traditional expectations of femininity and social interaction. This creates a complex relationship between their identity and the way in which others perceive and relate to them. Strength in this context is not simply a matter of physical ability, but also psychological and emotional resilience. It is a quality that is often undervalued or misunderstood, particularly in women, because of the stereotypical expectations society places on femininity. Women are often expected to be nurturing, empathetic, and accommodating, qualities that are traditionally associated with more passive or supportive roles. When a woman challenges these norms by displaying strength, whether through ambition, independence, or leadership, she may inadvertently alienate herself from others who feel threatened by or uncomfortable with these traits. This disconnection begins with the expectation that women should adhere to certain roles in their relationships. A strong woman, by nature of her strength, may find herself in situations where her assertiveness clashes with the passivity or subservience that is often expected in close friendships. When people, particularly other women, feel as though they cannot keep up with her or meet her needs, it creates a dynamic where the woman may be left feeling isolated. She may become perceived as intimidating, which can discourage potential friendships. In turn, those who would be good friends may feel inadequate or less willing to engage on a deeper level because they do not know how to approach someone who is not seeking validation or emotional support in the way they might be accustomed to offering it. This dynamic of intimidation is important to understand. Strong women may be seen as threats to the stability of social norms, particularly in a culture that often reinforces the idea that women should be deferential and non-confrontational. The woman who exhibits strength, whether through intellectual capacity, emotional fortitude, or ambition, challenges these cultural expectations, and this can generate a form of social alienation. The very traits that make her strong may be the same traits that make others uncomfortable. People tend to gravitate toward what is familiar, and the more that a person deviates from these expectations, the harder it becomes for others to relate. Moreover, a strong woman often values herself highly, and she is not willing to accept relationships that are superficial or based on convenience. In friendships, this translates to a preference for quality over quantity. She is less likely to engage in the kind of shallow, transactional relationships that some individuals might seek out. Her standards for friendship may be higher, and as a result, she may have fewer close relationships. There is an inherent honesty in this approach to friendship. A strong woman does not settle for friendships that do not meet her emotional or intellectual needs. This might make her appear selective or even aloof to those who are more inclined toward forming connections based on shared interests, mutual benefit, or convenience. But for her, the depth of the connection is far more important than the number of friends. The issue of vulnerability also plays a significant role in this. Strong women are often not afforded the same level of vulnerability that is given to others. A woman who is seen as strong may be expected to always be in control, composed, and capable. This expectation, while seemingly empowering, can also limit the opportunities for emotional intimacy. Vulnerability is a critical component of any close friendship, but a strong woman may struggle to find individuals who are willing to accept her vulnerabilities. She may fear that showing weakness will undermine her perceived strength, or she may have internalized the belief that she must constantly prove her worth through strength alone. This creates an emotional paradox. The very strength that she is celebrated for may prevent her from forming deeper, more meaningful connections. It is essential to recognize that strong women may also have a heightened awareness of their own limitations. The strength they demonstrate is not an absence of vulnerability, but rather a recognition that they must rely on their own resources to succeed. This self-reliance can lead to a sense of independence that further isolates them. They may prioritize personal growth, career development, or other pursuits that require significant emotional and mental investment, leaving little room for the kind of casual socializing that others might take for granted. For some, the pursuit of individual goals can create a sense of disconnection from others who do not share the same intensity of purpose or drive. The perception of a strong woman's independence is often misunderstood. While she may not depend on others for emotional or financial support, this does not mean that she does not desire or need meaningful connections. In fact, it may be quite the opposite. A woman who is self-reliant may find herself yearning for friendships that transcend the surface level and that offer genuine emotional depth. But because of her independence and strength, she may not know how to ask for the kind of connection she seeks. She may feel that others will not understand her needs or will perceive her as too demanding. As a result, she may retreat further into herself, reinforcing her isolation. Another significant factor in the limited social circles of strong women is their ability to recognize toxic or superficial relationships. Women who have developed emotional intelligence and self-awareness are often adept at identifying when a friendship is not serving their best interests. They are less likely to tolerate toxic behavior, manipulative tendencies, or shallow connections. This discernment can lead them to distance themselves from individuals who do not meet their standards of respect and integrity. While this may be empowering, it also means that the pool of potential friends shrinks significantly. A strong woman is not content with relationships that are based on pretense or that undermine her values. This high standard, while admirable, can make it difficult to find people who align with her principles or who are emotionally mature enough to engage in a meaningful way. Furthermore, the societal pressure to conform to certain expectations can create a sense of frustration for strong women who are seeking authentic relationships. They may feel as though they are constantly fighting against stereotypes and assumptions. Society often expects women to act in a way that is agreeable, docile, and supportive. When a woman rejects these expectations and embraces her own sense of strength, she may find herself outside the typical social frameworks that allow for easy friendship. The act of being strong, in this sense, is a rejection of conventional gender roles, and in doing so, it can alienate her from those who are either too invested in those roles or who feel threatened by the challenge to the status quo. Finally, it is essential to recognize that friendship itself is a nuanced and evolving concept. As people grow older and more self-aware, their understanding of friendship changes. The need for validation diminishes, and the desire for deeper, more authentic connections increases. Strong women, particularly those who have spent much of their lives developing their own strength and resilience, may find that their social circles naturally contract over time. They may realize that the number of friends is not as important as the quality of those relationships. They may choose to invest their time and energy in a select few individuals who align with their values and who offer the emotional support and understanding they need. This choice to prioritize quality over quantity can lead to fewer friendships, but those that remain are often far more meaningful. In conclusion, the issue of strong women having few friends is not necessarily a negative one. It reflects a deeper truth about the nature of strength, vulnerability, and human connection. Strong women often possess qualities that make it difficult for others to relate to them, but those same qualities also make them capable of forming relationships that are based on genuine understanding, respect, and emotional depth. The strength that some perceive as a barrier to friendship is in fact a foundation for building more meaningful and authentic connections. It is a reflection of personal growth, emotional intelligence, and a refusal to settle for anything less than the best in terms of human relationships. Strong women do not need a multitude of friends to validate their worth. They need a select few who can truly understand and support them in the complex and often challenging journey of life. Strong women often challenge traditional societal expectations of femininity, which can lead to feelings of intimidation or discomfort in others. This results in fewer but potentially more meaningful friendships, as others may struggle to relate to their assertiveness or independence. Strong women tend to prioritize quality over quantity in friendships. They seek genuine, deep connections rather than superficial relationships, which can limit their social circles, but ensures that their remaining friendships are authentic and fulfilling. While strong women are often self-reliant, their emotional needs may be overlooked because they are not typically perceived as vulnerable. This can make it difficult for them to form intimate, supportive friendships where emotional reciprocity is present. Strong women often find themselves at odds with societal expectations, especially when it comes to relationships and social dynamics. These expectations, deeply ingrained within many cultures, can have a significant impact on how women are perceived, how they interact with others, and ultimately, how they form friendships. The notion of strength is multifaceted, encompassing not only physical ability but emotional resilience, intellectual capacity, and assertiveness. For women who exhibit these traits, the social landscape can often feel like a battleground, where the very qualities that make them powerful can also become a source of alienation. These women may find that their strength, which should ideally be celebrated, can instead generate feelings of intimidation in others, particularly within the context of relationships and social circles. The first challenge lies in the way strength is perceived in women. In many societies, women have historically been expected to embody certain qualities: nurturing, gentle, accommodating, and passive. These expectations are deeply tied to traditional gender roles that suggest women should prioritize the needs of others over their own. When a woman steps outside of these prescribed roles and demonstrates strength, whether through emotional resilience, intellectual prowess, or assertiveness, she can be seen as deviating from what is considered acceptable or feminine. This deviation can unsettle others, particularly those who hold traditional views of gender roles. And as a result, the strong woman may unintentionally become an outsider, or worse, an object of resentment or fear. This fear, which is often rooted in insecurity or a lack of understanding, can lead others to distance themselves from the strong woman. When people perceive strength, especially in women, they may feel threatened by it because it challenges their own sense of identity or social standing. Strength in women is often associated with independence and self-sufficiency, which can create a sense of inadequacy in those who rely on others for validation or emotional support. If a woman does not appear to need others, or if she demonstrates confidence and autonomy, it can provoke envy, discomfort, or a sense of inferiority. This dynamic is not exclusive to men. It can also occur among women who feel their own vulnerabilities exposed in the presence of a woman who does not exhibit the same need for validation or emotional support. Moreover, the very traits that make a woman strong can be perceived as threatening to others' social stability. For instance, women who are ambitious, assertive, or outspoken may be seen as competing for attention or resources, whether in a professional environment, a social setting, or even within a friendship. The idea of competition is ingrained in human nature, and when a woman's strength challenges the perceived balance, it can create tensions in her relationships. Some may feel that they cannot keep up with her pace, or worse, that they are somehow being overshadowed by her. This perceived competition can lead to a reluctance to form close bonds, as potential friends might feel inadequate or fearful of being outshone. The issue of vulnerability also plays a crucial role in this process. Strong women, by virtue of their emotional and psychological resilience, may not always be seen as needing emotional support from others. This can create a paradox, where others might perceive the strong woman as emotionally unavailable, or worse, unapproachable. Friendship, by its very nature, is built on a foundation of mutual support, trust, and vulnerability. But for strong women, the ability to be vulnerable may feel like a weakness or an unnecessary exposure of their inner selves. They may fear that showing vulnerability would diminish their strength or cause others to see them as less capable. This fear of being perceived as weak can lead to a situation where the strong woman inadvertently isolates herself from the possibility of forming deeper connections. When a person is not perceived as needing support or being open to vulnerability, it can hinder the creation of authentic relationships, which require openness and mutual emotional exchange. Further complicating this dynamic is the societal tendency to place a disproportionate burden on women to be emotionally supportive, not just for friends but for family, partners, and even colleagues. This expectation arises from the deeply rooted cultural stereotype that women are naturally caregivers and nurturers. A strong woman who deviates from this role and prioritizes her own needs or goals may be viewed as selfish or even uncaring. The emotional labor that women are often expected to provide can sometimes limit their own capacity for forming connections that are not based on this kind of support. A strong woman may find herself drained by the constant demand for emotional labor from others, and may struggle to find individuals who are willing to offer emotional support in return. The pressure to conform to societal expectations of femininity also manifests in the way women are expected to interact with each other. Women who exhibit strength, whether in their career, their intellectual pursuits, or their emotional fortitude may find it difficult to navigate the often complex web of social relationships that women are expected to foster. Friendship, in many cultures, is often defined by a certain level of emotional intimacy and mutual dependence. However, a strong woman's independence can make it challenging to find others who understand or respect her need for space, self-sufficiency, and personal growth. This can create a sense of alienation, as her approach to relationships may not fit the traditional mold that is expected of female friendships. Additionally, women who are perceived as strong are often not given the same social grace as others when it comes to mistakes or shortcomings. A woman who is outspoken, assertive, or unapologetically ambitious is more likely to be criticized or judged harshly for her behavior, while similar traits in men might be seen as signs of leadership or confidence. This double standard places an additional burden on strong women, as they must not only contend with the expectation to conform to traditional feminine roles, but also face the scrutiny that comes with deviating from these roles. This scrutiny can create a fear of judgment that further discourages the formation of close, trusting friendships, as the strong woman might feel that her every move is under constant evaluation. One of the most difficult aspects of this dynamic is the emotional labor that comes with constantly navigating the tension between societal expectations and personal authenticity. For many women, this tension is a daily struggle. The desire to be strong and independent is often met with resistance from both men and women, who may feel uncomfortable with a woman who does not conform to the passive, supportive archetype. The expectation that women should be agreeable, accommodating, and emotionally attuned to others' needs can create a rift between strong women and potential friends who may feel that they are not capable of meeting these emotional demands, or that their own vulnerabilities will be exposed in the presence of someone who appears to have it all together. The fear of vulnerability is not only a barrier to forming friendships, but also a limiting factor when it comes to connecting with others on a deeper level. A woman who is strong and self-reliant may feel that allowing herself to be vulnerable will undermine her image of strength. However, vulnerability is an essential aspect of any meaningful relationship, and without it, friendships cannot develop beyond surface-level interactions. The fear of being judged for showing vulnerability, or the belief that one must always remain in control, can prevent strong women from experiencing the kind of emotional reciprocity that allows for true connection. The underlying problem is that society's concept of strength is often misaligned with the complexities of human connection. Strength is not just about being able to face challenges on one's own, or about projecting an image of emotional invulnerability. True strength encompasses the ability to balance independence with emotional openness, self-sufficiency with interdependence, and leadership with empathy. The woman who embodies these qualities, however, is often caught in a delicate balancing act. She may appear too independent, too self-sufficient, or too emotionally distant for others to approach her as a potential friend. Yet the truth is that the very traits that make her strong are also the ones that allow her to form deep, meaningful connections when given the opportunity. As such, strong women may find themselves in a situation where their strength, instead of being a source of empowerment, becomes a barrier to forming the kind of social bonds that many others take for granted. The fear, discomfort, or insecurity that their strength generates in others often leads to fewer friendships, not because they lack the desire for connection, but because they are often misunderstood. The women who exhibit true strength, those who combine emotional resilience with self-awareness and vulnerability, may find themselves feeling isolated, not because they are incapable of forming friendships, but because the very nature of their strength challenges the conventional expectations that others rely on to feel secure in their relationships. This paradox of strength and isolation reveals an important truth about the way we view and value women in our society. Women who deviate from the prescribed roles of passivity and emotional dependency are often met with resistance, even if their strength is precisely what allows them to navigate the world with resilience and grace. As a result, strong women are often left to contend with a complex social environment where their strength becomes both a gift and a challenge. The key to overcoming this challenge lies in recognizing that true strength is not about distancing oneself from others, but about embracing the complexity of human connection, even when it is difficult. Strength should not be a barrier to forming meaningful friendships, but rather a foundation for deeper, more authentic connections. For many strong women, the way they navigate relationships is governed by an internal compass that places a high value on emotional depth and authenticity. This often translates into having high standards when it comes to the people they choose to invest their time and energy in. Emotional depth is a core aspect of any meaningful relationship, and for women who possess a strong sense of self, their emotional needs tend to revolve around finding connections that are not superficial, but rooted in honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. It is this desire for meaningful relationships that often leads strong women to develop a smaller circle of friends rather than seeking to build numerous acquaintances. These high standards, though, are often misunderstood, and the result can be a sense of isolation or even being perceived as difficult to approach. One of the defining characteristics of a strong woman is her ability to be self-sufficient, both emotionally and physically. She is not dependent on external validation or approval, and as such, she often values relationships that are based on authenticity and mutual respect. This can create a sense of emotional depth that others may find difficult to match. For someone who has developed emotional intelligence and resilience, superficial relationships simply do not provide the same level of satisfaction. The woman who has learned to navigate the complexities of life through her own strength will seek to surround herself with people who can offer more than just pleasantries or surface-level exchanges. Instead, she looks for individuals who are capable of engaging on a deeper emotional level, who are willing to offer genuine support, and who are capable of understanding her on a fundamental level. However, the desire for such emotional depth can be challenging in a world where many people are content with more transactional or superficial relationships. In many social environments, people tend to gravitate toward relationships that are convenient, easy, and offer immediate gratification. These types of relationships can often revolve around shared interests, surface-level camaraderie, or mutual benefits. While there is nothing inherently wrong with these types of interactions, they are often not enough for a strong woman who desires something more meaningful. She may find herself in a situation where her desire for a deeper connection is not reciprocated, leaving her feeling unsatisfied or even alienated. The woman who has high standards for the emotional depth of her relationships is unlikely to settle for relationships that do not meet her needs, and as a result, her circle of friends may naturally shrink. This need for depth and authenticity can also lead to the feeling of being misunderstood. The more a person demands in terms of emotional intimacy, the more likely they are to be perceived as difficult or demanding. A strong woman who seeks depth in her friendships may find that others view her expectations as unrealistic or unattainable. In a world where many people are accustomed to more shallow interactions, the desire for deeper, more meaningful connections can feel like a burden to others. This can lead to feelings of loneliness, as the woman may find that those around her are not willing or able to meet her emotional needs. Moreover, a strong woman's emotional depth often requires a level of self-awareness and introspection that not everyone is capable of. The desire to cultivate deep emotional connections is rooted in the ability to be vulnerable and honest, both with oneself and others. This can be challenging as it requires a level of emotional maturity and openness that not everyone possesses. For some, it is easier to maintain a sense of distance or detachment rather than confront the vulnerability that comes with emotional intimacy. This can be especially true in friendships, where the expectation is often that individuals will offer emotional support to one another. For a strong woman, the willingness to offer emotional support to others is something she values highly, but she also expects the same level of investment in return. When this emotional reciprocity is not met, it can create a sense of imbalance that is difficult to overlook. She may feel as though her emotional energy is being drained without being replenished, which can lead to frustration and, eventually, withdrawal from relationships that do not offer the same level of emotional engagement. The strong woman's high standards extend beyond emotional depth to encompass the quality of the character in her friends. She is not likely to engage with individuals who are dishonest, manipulative, or who do not share her values. Relationships built on trust and mutual respect are non-negotiable for her, and she is willing to walk away from friendships that do not align with these principles. This again can result in a smaller circle of friends, as finding people who meet these standards can be difficult. In a world where many relationships are built on shared interests or convenience, the strong woman who seeks a connection that goes deeper than these surface-level interactions may find it challenging to find individuals who meet her standards of integrity and honesty. The concept of vulnerability also plays a significant role in the emotional depth of relationships. For many strong women, being vulnerable does not come easily. Their strength has often been developed as a defense mechanism in response to life's challenges, and the idea of exposing their true emotions or weaknesses can feel like a risk. However, Strong women who value emotional depth in their friendships understand that vulnerability is a necessary component of true intimacy. They know that without vulnerability, relationships cannot grow beyond the surface. For a woman who is used to standing strong on her own, allowing herself to be vulnerable with others requires a great deal of trust. This trust must be earned, and it is not something that she offers lightly. When a person demonstrates the ability to listen, empathize, and offer support without judgment, it creates an opportunity for deeper emotional connection. But when this level of emotional reciprocity is not present, the strong woman may pull away, retreating into herself in order to protect her emotional well-being. The emotional depth that a strong woman seeks in her friendships also extends to her ability to engage in meaningful, thoughtful conversations. Superficial small talk or idle chatter simply do not satisfy her need for connection. She craves intellectual stimulation and emotional engagement that allows her to grow both personally and relationally. For her, friendship is about more than just companionship. It is about mutual growth and support. She desires relationships where she can learn, share, and be challenged, rather than relationships that are stagnant or one-dimensional. This can lead to frustration when she finds herself in social circles that are more interested in gossip or trivial matters than in engaging with the deeper issues of life. The strong woman's desire for intellectual and emotional growth means that she is less likely to settle for relationships that lack this level of engagement. Another factor that contributes to the high standards that strong women place on their friendships is their sense of self-worth. Women who are self-confident and secure in who they are less likely to tolerate relationships that undermine their self-esteem or that are emotionally draining. They know their worth and are not willing to settle for friendships that are based on unhealthy dynamics or emotional manipulation. This high sense of self-worth, while empowering, can also lead to a sense of isolation, as these women are less likely to engage in relationships that do not contribute positively to their emotional and psychological well-being. The process of discerning which friendships are worth investing in and which ones need to be let go is an ongoing and sometimes painful one. However, it is a necessary process for maintaining emotional health and ensuring that the relationships they nurture are based on mutual respect and genuine connection. This process of selecting friends based on high standards can also lead to the perception that strong women are difficult to approach or too selective. Others may view the strong woman as standoffish or overly critical because she does not engage with everyone equally. However, this selectivity is not born out of a desire to exclude people. Rather, it comes from a recognition that emotional depth, authenticity, and integrity are essential components of any meaningful relationship. When a woman places high standards on the friendships she cultivates, she is not only protecting herself, but also ensuring that her emotional energy is being invested in relationships that are healthy and rewarding. The fewer friendships she has, the more meaningful each one becomes, and the more likely it is that those friendships will be built on a strong foundation of trust, respect, and emotional reciprocity. The desire for emotional depth and high standards in relationships can sometimes make strong women appear more solitary or independent than they actually are. It is not that they do not value friendships, rather they are simply unwilling to settle for anything less than the kind of connection that fosters mutual growth and emotional fulfillment. The emotional depth that they seek requires patience, understanding, and a willingness to invest in each other on a deeper level. This is not something that can be rushed or forced, and it often requires a certain level of emotional maturity and awareness that not everyone possesses. As a result, strong women may find that their social circles are smaller, but the friendships that remain are often more profound and enduring than the more fleeting connections that might have been formed under different circumstances. The emotional depth and high standards that characterize strong women's relationships are not limitations, but rather reflections of their desire for meaningful, authentic connections. These women know that true friendships are built on a foundation of emotional reciprocity, trust, and mutual respect, and they are willing to invest only in those relationships that offer these qualities. It is through this commitment to emotional depth and authenticity that strong women can cultivate friendships that nourish their emotional well-being and contribute positively to their growth as individuals. While the process of finding such relationships may be challenging, the rewards of cultivating deep, meaningful friendships are immeasurable, and they often result in the kind of connections that endure through life's challenges. Self-reliance and vulnerability are often seen as opposing qualities, yet for many strong women they coexist in a delicate balance that shapes their personal and social lives. The tension between these two characteristics is complex, especially since they reflect different aspects of a woman's emotional and psychological landscape. Self-reliance refers to a person's ability to rely on her own resources mentally, emotionally, and physically without depending on others for validation, support, or direction. It is the quality that allows individuals to stand firm in their own beliefs and navigate the world on their own terms. Vulnerability, on the other hand, is the willingness to expose one's emotional self, to allow for the possibility of hurt or disappointment, and to engage with others in a way that is open, honest, and raw. For many strong women, these two traits are not contradictory but are woven together to form the foundation of their relationships, personal growth, and emotional well-being. The paradox of self-reliance and vulnerability lies in the fact that self-reliant women, those who are capable of managing their own lives with resilience and independence, are often the least likely to show vulnerability. This stems from the idea that vulnerability is seen as a weakness or a flaw. Vulnerability requires a certain level of trust in others, and for many women who have relied on their own strength for so long, opening themselves up to others can feel like relinquishing control. The strong woman who has developed self-reliance often does so as a means of protecting herself, ensuring that she does not need anyone else to survive or thrive. It becomes a survival mechanism, a way of navigating a world that may not always be kind or understanding. In many ways, self-reliance becomes a shield, protecting her from the unpredictability of others' behaviors or emotions. However, the reliance on self as a primary source of strength can also create emotional isolation. The more a person relies on their own inner resources, the less they may feel the need to lean on others for emotional support or validation. Over time, this can lead to a sense of disconnection from others, even from those who care about them deeply. The strong woman may feel that she does not need help, or she may even believe that asking for help is a sign of weakness. As a result, she may keep others at arm's length, unable to fully open herself up to the people around her. This emotional distance can prevent her from forming the kind of close, meaningful relationships that require mutual vulnerability and shared emotional experiences. The more she leans into her self-reliance, the more she may withdraw from those who might otherwise offer her support, leaving her to navigate her struggles alone. Vulnerability, however, is a critical aspect of emotional intimacy and connection. In order to form truly meaningful relationships, individuals must be willing to expose their inner selves, to let down their guard, and to risk the possibility of being hurt or misunderstood. Vulnerability allows people to connect on a deeper level, to share their hopes, fears, and dreams with others, and to find solace in the understanding and empathy of those they trust. For strong women, allowing themselves to be vulnerable can feel like a profound act of courage. It requires them to face the possibility of rejection, disappointment, or betrayal experiences that they may have worked hard to avoid by cultivating their self-reliance in the first place. Yet without vulnerability, even the strongest individuals can miss out on the kind of authentic connection that comes from mutual emotional sharing. The tension between self-reliance and vulnerability often stems from the fear that vulnerability may undermine the strength that a woman has worked so hard to build. In a society that often values independence and emotional control, showing vulnerability can be seen as a risk, a potential threat to one's reputation or sense of security. Women who are accustomed to relying on themselves may fear that opening up to others will expose them to judgment, rejection, or criticism. They may believe that by revealing their weaknesses, they will lose their sense of control or become less powerful in the eyes of others. In this way, the fear of vulnerability can prevent strong women from fully experiencing the kind of emotional support that they need, even though they may deeply desire it. While self-reliance can be a valuable trait, it is essential to recognize that human beings are inherently social creatures, and emotional connection is a fundamental need. Even the most self-sufficient individuals require support, understanding, and empathy from others in order to thrive. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is a necessary component of emotional health and well-being. It is through vulnerability that individuals can form deep, authentic relationships that provide the emotional nourishment necessary for personal growth. Strong women who have mastered self-reliance must learn that vulnerability does not diminish their strength, but rather enhances it. It is through embracing vulnerability that they can experience the fullness of human connection, allowing them to build stronger relationships and to become more in touch with their own emotions and needs. For women who have cultivated self-reliance over the years, the process of learning to be vulnerable can take time and patience. It requires a shift in perspective, from viewing vulnerability as a weakness to recognizing it as an opportunity for growth and connection. Vulnerability involves a level of emotional transparency that may be uncomfortable at first, but it also creates space for deeper understanding and intimacy. It is through vulnerability that women can allow others to see them for who they truly are, without the masks or defenses that may have been built over years of self-reliance. When they allow themselves to be vulnerable, they open the door for others to meet them in a place of authenticity, creating the foundation for relationships that are built on mutual trust and emotional reciprocity. While self-reliance remains an important part of a strong woman's identity, it is not a trait that should be held onto at the expense of emotional well-being. Strong women, like all individuals, need emotional support, companionship, and empathy from others. The challenge lies in finding the balance between self-reliance and vulnerability, between maintaining one's independence and allowing others to support and care for them. Vulnerability is not about giving up control. It is about trusting that others will meet you with understanding, compassion, and care. It is through this balance that a strong woman can truly experience the depth of human connection and find fulfillment in her relationships. The struggle between self-reliance and vulnerability is not unique to strong women, but it is often more pronounced in women who have been conditioned to view strength as synonymous with independence. Society often reinforces the idea that women should be able to manage everything on their own, whether it is personal challenges, professional responsibilities, or emotional needs. This cultural expectation can make it even harder for women to allow themselves to be vulnerable, as they may fear that doing so will be seen as a failure or a sign of weakness. However, the truth is that vulnerability is not a sign of failure. It is an essential part of being human. It is through vulnerability that people can form deep emotional connections, share their authentic selves, and experience the true richness of human relationships. Ultimately, self-reliance and vulnerability are not opposing forces but complementary elements of a woman's emotional and social life. The key lies in recognizing that it is okay to need others, to ask for help, and to share one's vulnerabilities with trusted individuals. It is through this process that strong women can build the kind of emotional intimacy and connection that will nourish them in ways that self-reliance alone cannot. By embracing vulnerability, strong women can enhance their relationships, deepen their emotional well-being, and experience the fullness of human connection.